Times Square, New York City. We're continuing our live coverage, and it could be quite a while that we continue our live coverage from the heart of New York City, the NASDAQ market site. We're watching all of these states, almost the entire country with the exception of Alaska. Polling booths have closed down. Here's where it stands right now. The popular vote for president, with 55% of the precincts in the United States reporting the president has 51% of the vote, slightly more than 35 million votes. John Kerry has 48% of the votes, 33 million plus votes. Ralph Nader with 1%, 252,000 or so votes for Ralph Nader. In the race for the White House, as important as the popular vote is, and it's important, but much more important is the Electoral College vote. You need 270 to be elected president. Right now, look at how close it is, 197. For Bush, we've projected 188. For Kerry, we've projected the blue states, our Kerry states, the red states, our Bush states, the white states, are states where the polling has closed down, but we have not yet been able to project a winner. Alaska closes 1 a.m. on the East Coast, so we'll still wait. Here are some of the states that we haven't been able, except for Pennsylvania, you see up there. Pennsylvania, we've projected a big win for John Kerry with 73% of the vote in, 55% for Kerry, 44% for Bush. Jeff Greenfield, you're looking at the map, you're looking at what's going on, and you're going to put it all in beautiful perspective for us. Right.
We don't know who the next president of the United States is yet. I'm looking at those Florida numbers with 94% of the precincts in and the president having just about a 300,000 vote lead. And remember what Judy Woodruff mentioned to us, some of that South Florida vote from Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County is in. I am certainly not going to step on any projections that we are not ready to make, but that looks like a pretty substantial lead for the president. Take a look at Michigan. We haven't talked about Michigan. That's a 17 electoral vote state. It was one of the top targets of Bush from the Gore states. You've only got a 30% of the vote in, and Kerry has a 60,000 vote lead, changing as we see, still about a 60,000 vote lead, with Nader no factor at all so far. So the more you look at this, the more it begins to look like exactly what people thought was going to happen before Election Day, that it's going to come down to 3, 4, 5, 6 states, and we're still waiting for a single state to move out of one candidate's column or one party's column into the other. Well,
look at New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a state that went for Bush 4 years ago. It's too close to call. We haven't been able to make a projection yet. 66% of the precincts in. Kerry with 50%, Bush with 49%, 1% for Ralph Nader.
This is a state which, we pointed this out several hours ago. If you put the map back the way it was in 2000, if you give New Hampshire to Kerry and Nevada to Kerry, you have a 269-269 tie, unless the president takes that one electoral vote in Maine, in which case he has 270 electoral votes.
This election again, just in New Hampshire.
Well, there's no, we can't find a single state, even in New Hampshire, where the Nader vote exceeds, exceeds a margin. But I see your point. If Nader gets a few thousand votes and Bush winds up taking the state by 2,000, that could determine it. Even at this level.
You're right. Talking about the Ralph Nader effect, you know what? Let's talk to Ralph Nader. He's joining us now live. Thanks very much, Ralph Nader, for joining us. Are you very disappointed in your turnout, in your votes that we've seen so far?
Well, since the Democrats, through their dirty tricks, have knocked us out of almost half of the nation's population, it's obvious that you can't get votes if you're not on the ballot. The other thing is the incumbent being a Republican, a lot of the Democrats who supported us in 2000 come back into the fold with the Democratic Party. I mean, trying to challenge the two-party electoral dictatorship, Wolf, is like trying to climb a cliff with a slippery rope. We're not doing this to be the margin at the narrow confines between the two candidates. We're doing this to put forward for the American people a series of directions and policies that they would really support on health insurance and living wage and getting out of Iraq and cracking down on corporate crime, et cetera. That are long overdue. I mean, we're trying to change somewhat the trivial and gossipy type horse race politics we're in into something substantive that responds to the necessities of the people.
There was a report that you said you thought Kerry would win tonight. Is that true?
Yeah, at 4 o'clock I thought he was going to win. He may still win.
I know you told me a few weeks ago, Ralph Nader, that if you can't be elected president, and you clearly can't be elected president, you hoped that, you said that John Kerry, I believe I'm paraphrasing, was the lesser of two evils.
Well, I said that anybody's better than George W. Bush. I mean, you know, he's just a big corporation disguised as a human being. Time and time again, as 2/3 of the American people conclude, he sides with big business against workers, against consumers, against the environment, you name it. Big business is his mantra, and that's not where the President of the United States should be. We do not need another corporation in the White House. We need a president that responds to the necessities of the people.
Now, just to point out, you had about 95,000 votes in Florida the last time, with about 95% of the precincts reporting. You're just under 30,000 votes right now. You're not doing, you're clearly not doing as well as you did last time in Florida.
Yeah, that's obviously the case. As I say, once the incumbent in the White House is a Republican, the Democrats tend to go back into the fold. But I think there's something else at work here, and there are more than a few conservatives furious with Bush over the Patriot Act, big government, over huge deficits, over sovereignty shredding WTO and NAFTA. We have a letter to conservatives, which if the Democrats are smart, they could have spun off some of these conservatives the way Reagan spun off what are now called the Reagan Democrats. But we have a letter to conservatives and a letter to liberals on our website, votenader.org, for anybody who's interested in the details.
Ralph Nader, thanks for spending a few moments with us on this historic night.
Thank you, Walt.
The Nader effect doesn't look, at least as far as we can tell, Jeff, to be playing the kind of role it played 4 years ago, especially in Florida and New Hampshire.
I'm looking at these numbers. I don't see a single state where he got much more than half of 1% of the vote, if that.
It could affect New Hampshire. If they finished like dead even and Nader got 1%, that might give Bush the victory, and he would affect New Hampshire and affect the election.
Right. Not unusual, though, to see a third-party candidate decline after running pretty well the first time. We saw that with Ross Perot. We're seeing that probably with Ralph Nader going from 2000 maybe to 2004. But Jeff and I were just talking for a bit about Florida and where things stand with Florida with 95% of the precincts in. If things ultimately go well for the president, he's got to give a big familial hug to his brother Jeb Bush. And what will be interesting there is Jeb Bush, who was embattled himself in that state leading up to his gubernatorial reelection campaign in 2002, ultimately pulled out a surprisingly big win that year, winning by 13%. If these numbers hold up, they'll say this is a surprisingly big win and say the ground game worked, particularly with evangelical Christians in Florida.
Do you think it's close to 4 years ago that we're holding off? Because I lived in Florida for 20 years and with 95% in and a 5% lead. That looks awful.
Those are 95% of the precincts reporting, and some precincts are bigger than other precincts, and that doesn't necessarily include the absentee ballots. I don't think it necessarily includes the absentee ballots. You know, they're going to still be counted.
Here's the other interesting tweak. Of the 67 counties, 15 of them are using electronic voting. We don't know whether or not there will be issues, because for many counties, the first time they're doing it. During early voting, we did see some hiccups where computers had trouble linking up to the main central database. So I'm not saying that's happened, but I'm saying it's certainly an issue that both sides will look at, especially since this is a state that was so close last time.
So you're saying we could reach 7 o'clock tomorrow morning in Florida not known?
We could hand off to the team and have neither side at least concede.
You agree with that?
Well, I think that that's what Democrats may be telling themselves right now. But I'm just saying that spread, with that percent of precincts in, I'm just going on past performance of states. That is an awfully big spread to make up, even with these explanations. Now, I agree. We got to hold off. We got to wait. We got to see, are there votes not being reported? That's just a lot of votes.
And I want to remind our viewers what Jeff pointed out at the very beginning when we started our broadcast. Seems like a long time ago, 7 p.m. Eastern. If both of these candidates hold on to the states they captured the last time, George W. Bush has a certain advantage because the states he carried the last time have increased population, so the shift in population gives him a certain advantage right now.
Right.
Of course, Florida may not matter if Kerry wins Ohio and splits the upper Midwest.
What Wolf is saying is, if you allocate every state the way they did in 2000, Bush got 271 electoral votes last time. This time it'd be 278. Florida has a couple more votes. Other Sun Belt states do. The Frost Belt has lost electoral votes in, I think, New York and Illinois. So Kerry, we said this hours ago, and everybody's known this for weeks, Kerry needs something substantial from the Bush list to become president.
Like New Hampshire, for example, would be a good start for him.
A start, but it wouldn't do it. Ohio would do it. Colorado would do it.
The only other interesting thing he could do without Ohio is hold on to the 20 and maybe grab Nevada and Colorado together.
To give our viewers a tennis analogy, we're going to see who breaks serve first.
Excellent.
And that's a pretty good analogy.
It's very nice. It's very nice.
See, I like
So
to play
far,
tennis.
no one has.
No one has broken serve yet. It's an analogy all of us can relate to.
Schumer, we call a Schumer one in New York.
Anderson Cooper is with us, and you're looking at some initiatives out there, referenda.
That's right. There's some interesting initiatives happening in various states around the union. There are 11 states in the union today voting on whether or not to ban gay marriage, various amendments or propositions, different names, but it's all the bottom line to ban gay marriage and in some cases eliminate some of the rights from civil unions. 10 of the 11 states so far we can project have voted to, the people have voted to ban gay marriage in that state. The only state at this point we cannot project is Oregon. If you look over here, right now, yes, 52%, no, 48%, yes would be a vote to ban it, but only 39% of the precincts are in Oregon. But 10 of the 11 states in this union have voted to ban gay marriage and eliminate some of the rights for civil unions. Wolf?
You know, that's a fascinating, I guess it's a statement on where the country stands right now on this issue of same-sex marriage. And we want to point out, Anderson, both of these candidates said they oppose same-sex marriage, although both seem to indicate, including the president, to our own Larry King, that they support civil unions for gays and lesbians.
That's right. And especially just in the last couple of days, President Bush gave some interviews in which he said he did support civil unions, so that is certainly not the case in the Republican Party platform.
He told you that a few months ago.
In August.
Yeah.
You know, Oregon was the only hope that those who support same-sex marriage had in defeating, and Oregon has had a history of defeating some of these pushes against gay marriage and gay rights, and so Oregon was really the only hope. And in addition to these 11, the other interesting thing is we had states like Missouri and Louisiana earlier in the process hold votes during their primaries to ban same-sex marriage.
Jeff, what state is the most independent? The most that where 1 year it's Republican, 4 years later it's Democrat?
That's a very good question. Well, in terms of swing states, up until recently, Missouri always voted with the winner. Ohio is a state that's always up for grabs. Those two. In terms of maverickness, though, you have to go to a state like Maine, which gave Ross Perot a huge, I think they gave him the single biggest percentage of the vote. You look at some of those western states, a state like Minnesota that elects Jesse Ventura governor, people who flirt with third-party candidates.
Oregon, Wayne Morse, right?
So, but in terms of who moves back and forth, I think Missouri is moving out of that category now. And I think so Ohio looks like one of those states, and Florida.
And when did it used to be, as Maine goes, so goes the nation? Was that Roosevelt?
Even before our time.
It used to be, as Maine goes, so goes the nation.
Maine had an independent governor, Angus King, who was elected governor of Maine, Jesse Ventura. They used to have a caucus of the non-Democratic, non-Republican governors. They'd get together and have a news conference.
You know, that's right. I mean, basically what you have here, more seriously, is you've had a shift over the last generation. The rock-ribbed Republican New England has moved, except for New Hampshire, solidly into the Democratic camp, and the solid Democratic South has moved almost solidly into the Republican camp. And the Republicans benefit from that in pure electoral terms.
And the Southwest has become...
Well, the Southwest has been traditionally Republican,
know,
and
but a
the
little
Democrats
bit
are looking to think maybe with the Hispanic vote that they can break through there. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at later tonight.
New Mexico was super close last time, and that could be one of those that you start to see move back.
Erskine Bowles conceding?
I want to just point out to our viewers, Erskine Bowles, the former White House chief of staff, who served under President Clinton, running a second time for the Senate in North Carolina. We haven't projected who's going to win in this contest, but we're told he may be getting ready to concede. Erskine Bowles lost the last time to Elizabeth Dole. Now he's running against Richard Burr, and it looks like he's getting ready to concede. Are you surprised by that, Jeff?
Well, that was a tight race. Once again, you're talking about a Democrat running in an increasingly red state in a presidential year, and even though coattails don't work the way they used to, you just are building in a difficulty when you have to overcome an 8 or a 10 or in some states a 15 or 20 point break for the president.
That's a seat and that's the seat that John Edwards is giving up, a Democratic seat that would be a pickup for the Republicans. So when Senator Frist, the Senate Majority Leader, said he thought they were going to gain seats, he may well be right.
Well, if he's not conceding, That's the unhappiest looking winner I have ever seen.
Those faces behind him
Yeah, I
are
know.
not very happy either.